You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode 199.2.3. Cade Hampton reports on Delaware County's three sectional championships on Saturday. Daleville, Delta, and Wapahani all took sectional titles, as did Monroe Central, which Cade also covered. We talked about those sectional championships and looked ahead a little to Saturday's regionals.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Cade Hampton of the Star Press. Very successful day on Saturday for Delaware County. Very successful year for Delaware County. And of course, you cover Monroe Central as well. But we will start with where you were on Saturday night. And that, of course, was at Southwood to watch Daleville make history. A Daleville team that came into the postseason with 6 wins, but we all knew was better than that, right?
The last time I saw Daleville in the regular season was against Alexandria, and they, really struggled in that game. But their regular season finale was on the road against Madison Grant, and they pulled off a really gritty kind of overtime victory. And then, coming into the sectional, they had the second worst record in the sectional, and they were kind of slept on going into it. I know not a lot of people, myself included, didn't really expect them to make the run they did, but they really put it together. Really impressive win to start it off. They beat Tri-Central by double digits. And then another really tough down-to-the-wire win against Westdale. I know they were up by double digits going into the fourth quarter, and then Westdale ended up kind of pulling it back within 2 points, but Daleville hung on. And then
A Northfield
last night,
team that was playing really well coming into the game.
oh, yeah. And, it was a tight game the entire time. I don't think anybody pulled away by double digits at any point. I think it was, within 8 or 9 points pretty much the entire game. And it was really impressive play down the stretch by Daleville, especially on defense. Offensively, they didn't have the biggest fourth quarter, but they, played so well in the third quarter. I think they scored something like 23 points in the third and kind of pulled away there. And then fourth quarter, especially in those last 2 minutes of the game, their defense was really impressive. And just so impressive for them to put that run together and, come in and the regular season wasn't what they wanted, and they just kind of put it behind them and had that 1-0 each night mentality. And hey, here they are, first sectional in 16 years.
But we knew with Colvin and with Sahina and with a couple other guys on that team, some seniors, kind of a senior-led team, that that was a team that was capable of winning that sectional. And now we need to
Yeah.
kind of look at a team, a Monroe Central team that beat them fairly handily, but that was way back in December, and this clearly is not the same Daleville team.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Hunter Sakina, and it's I don't believe they had him yet for that
Right.
Monroe Central game at the beginning of the season. And so, he's really just added a whole different element of scoring to their offense because, he's so good at driving and he has such great touch underneath the basket. So whenever he gets in the paint, he can make things happen. And then he's great at drawing fouls, getting to the free throw line. He's an excellent free throw shooter. So he really has just, I think it took maybe a little bit of time for him to kind of mesh into the offense and develop some chemistry with those guys. But the run that he's put together, he has kind of shouldered the load offensively for them. And then you mentioned Noah Colvin as well. He is really, he hit like 6 threes the other night. He was 18 points, led the team. So, really impressive run by those seniors, and really great for Coach Fouch, Coach Ashley Fouch, to put that together. And
All right, some history made
make
on
history.
Friday
Yeah.
night. That was my next question, and it was just a matter of time. We're seeing it all over the NBA, all over college basketball. A matter of time before a woman coached a boys team to a sectional championship, and that history was made at Daleville.
Yeah. And it was, talking to Coach Fouch, it wasn't even something that she had on her mind.
Right.
And she, great coach. She's focused on the kids and what they're putting together. But when you make history, it's, hard to ignore that. So massive, major props. Congratulations to her. And yeah, we'll see what they can do against a really, really talented Monroe Central team as well. They've got a good squad led by Easton Foster, the senior
Right.
forward, who is really one of the more electric players in my area.
And I think you'd have to say Monroe Central is the favorite in that one. But again, it would be hard to count Daleville out.
Yeah, I was looking at John Harrell's model earlier, and he has Monroe Central as a heavy favorite. But, I mean, he also said Daleville had something like a 12 or maybe single-digit
Right.
% chance to win the sectional. So, I
Well,
mean,
when you
yeah,
throw a talented scorer like Sahina into the mix, it doesn't take that into account
exactly.
on
Yeah,
the
I
computer.
will.
So
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely excited to see kind of how different that matchup plays out, because I was actually at that first game in December. I mean, that was one of the first basketball games I got to. So, and Monroe Central kind of took care of business in that game, but again, Daleville didn't have Sectional yet, so it'll be really interesting to see kind of how that extra element and the way Daleville is shooting the ball right now. I mean, I think they can definitely make a push there.
by the way, there are two Daleville high schools in America. Do you know where the other one is?
It's in Alabama.
That's right, the Seahawks.
Yes, sir. Yep, I
It-
am. I actually think I drive past that school right on my drive between Tuscaloosa and Mount Juliet, my
there you
hometown.
go.
So,
There you go. And we know that from Max Preps. So
yep.
all right, Cade. Also, Delta when it turns to the postseason, Delta just comes through 3 years in a row, looking to make it three regionals in a row.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just took care of business in their sectional. They drew the bye, so that was, a favorable draw, and then played a tough game against the Yorktown team that kind of similar to Daleville, didn't have the
Yeah.
best record in the regular season, but they got a guy back late in the season in Nate Tyler, and he kind of added a different element to that offense, and they had a really impressive win over Jay County in the first round, and kind of played Delta close for the first half, but Bronson Edwards really took over that game in the second half. He was just offensively, defensively, he kind of put it into a different gear, and he's definitely going to need to do that again on Saturday if they're going to push Blackhawk. I mean, that's a really tough draw, but yeah, I mean,
That's a guy, by
Delta.
the way, who knows how to win in the postseason because he just did it in baseball, he did it in football, and now he did it in basketball as the standout in games. Just amazing. Made a huge play in a sectional game in football, and of course pitched them to. I can't remember exactly how far, but they went a long way in baseball, and what a year it's been for him, and his best sport's still coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun to get to know Bronson over. I mean, the first like high school event that I covered on this job was Delta football, and I talked to him a little bit after that game, and then talked to him a couple times after basketball games, and now I got baseball season coming up, so I hope he likes me because I'm
You're gonna see him a lot.
I've been everywhere. He
And
sees me
they are
all the
going
time.
to be very good at baseball this year. So should be a great season covering hopefully it's great weather because high school baseball is fantastic when the weather's nice.
Oh yeah, I mean,
And it's miserable
I
when the
love it.
weather's bad.
Yeah, oh yeah, I bet. But I mean, hey, it looks like we got a good week of weather coming up. I was just checking that today, and it looks like we're gonna have some nice weather.
It looks like it. Also, we had Wapahani, the one that is absolutely no surprise. They had a pretty tough road to get to the sectional championship. The first two games, you're talking about an Eastbrook team that had won 8 and 9 and had beaten the two CIC champions. So a pretty good team. They had a little bit beat them by 10, and then of course a very good Blackford team that won the CIC, and then a little bit easier. The other side of the bracket was not quite as tough, and they dominated Madison Grant on Saturday night. But no surprise, here we are again with Wapahani.
Yeah, I mean, they have just been pretty unstoppable. It looked like a buzzsaw all season, every game that I've seen them play, and I know they had the one hiccup against Newcastle. I think that maybe came at a good time in the season, when I don't know how many wins they had at that point. Maybe they were 16, 17 or no, but I think, kind of similar vibes to like Ball State women's basketball dominating their way through the MAC, but dropping those two games late in the regular season. I think that kind of can be a wake-up call for a team that gets so used to dominating. And so perfect, obviously not perfect to lose a game, but if you're going to do it, good timing to do that right before the postseason, and then kind of be able to lock in and, like you mentioned, run through a pretty tough bracket to get to that championship. And then, yeah, I mean, Wapahani also another three-peat in Delaware County, so just taking care of business.
All right, well, let's talk again about Saturday like we did with Daleville. And first, we'll look at Wapahani, 4 o'clock at Lapel. So a gym that they're a little bit familiar with against a Western Boone team that you would think that they should have very little problem with.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you look at Western Boone, they won 11 games. Won their sectional, obviously, every game that's why you play them. I mean, but yeah, Wapahani, the way they're playing this season, they have the, postseason experience. They're trying to get back to the state finals. They've got everything kind of going in the right direction. So with the way Camden Bell, the way Nate Luce is shooting the ball, it's hard to feel any negatives about Wapahani right now.
Yeah, they may lose. I just don't think it's going to be this week. So,
Yeah.
yeah, doesn't look that way. And then, of course, Newcastle, we have at 4 o'clock, 9-15 Daleville against 18-6 Monroe Central, as we talked about. That is followed by 16-7 Delta, a very tough task in a program that's gone from Class A to 2A to 3A because of their success. In Fort Wayne, Blackhawk Christian, they are 24-3 and will be the favorite in that one.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that Daleville Monroe Central matchup. I think that's going to be a really exciting game. I think, like I said earlier, Sectional, seeing how he matches up there, and then Easton Foster, I think the size advantage that he provides with his length and height, I think that's going to be big because, Daleville is a pretty small team, but they play a lot bigger than they are on paper. But Foster is, kind of a different animal. But as far as Delta goes, Kellen Pickett, 6'8" forward for Blackhawk, is going to be a pretty tough matchup. I know Bronson and Jordan Fernie are kind of their main big defender type guys,
Right.
but you don't see a 6'8" power forward very often, so that's going to be a tough matchup for them. But if they can get some outside shooting going and play their zone defense and play it well, create some turnovers and get some momentum, I know they're going to have probably a much better crowd than Blackhawk will there. So
They should. By the way,
crazier things have happened.
For those who don't know, Kellen Pickett is a 3-star recruit who is headed to Wright State. So going to be a tough matchup for the Eagles.
Yeah, but like I said, crazier things have happened. I think they
and Delta knows how to win these regionals. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They just made a pretty good run last year, so they don't have a lot of that production they had last year. But with Fernie and Edwards leading the way, those guys are, experienced. They have the right mentality, everything. So.
All right. Anything else before we go?
Well, I would feel bad if I let you go without saying Roll Tide after what Mark Sears did yesterday.
War Eagle, my man. Thank you so much for your time. I always appreciate it, and I love that I'm an Auburn fan, you're an Alabama fan, and we can be cordial about it. I love it.
Yeah, it's always fun to be able to have somebody to rib on a little bit, but it's.
Yes.
Yeah, the SEC tournament next week is going to be quite exciting.
It should be a nice long run for both teams in the postseason. If it's not, one of us is going to have a reason to have fun with the other, because those are two teams. Those are two teams with Final Four talent for sure.
Absolutely, and if we get a Final Four national championship matchup between those two, that'll be.
We're going to turn Alabama. We're going to turn Alabama into a basketball state.
Hey, I think it already is. I think we might need to start saying in 48 states.
That's right. Thank you so much, Cade. I appreciate it again. Thanks once again to Cade Hampton for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report. Always appreciate his time. He does such a good job at the Star Press and on this podcast. Really appreciate him. If you are interested in seeing the Central Indiana Sports Report continue to grow and thrive, please share this podcast with your friends. And we would really appreciate it if you'd go and subscribe at our YouTube page. Just search Central Indiana Sports Report. We are easy to find. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie and War Eagle.